But let's move on to another team that's struggling, and that's the New York Knicks. I'm so
Oh,
sorry. I'm gonna take a little bit on
uh,
this because Matt is a big Knicks fan and he's from New York, and this is just devastating for him.
mm,
But initially going into the season this year, you look at them last year, I would say it was a successful season. I'd give them like a B plus.
oh, it was a home
They
run of the season, man.
they exceeded
Absolutely.
expectations, but they signed Evan Fournier, and they look like they were gonna make decent strides this year. On paper, they look like they're a better team than last year. On paper, but unfortunately, it's not gone that way. And I think that their schedule. I mean, they play tough teams. It seems like every single night they're playing a tough team. And although it's close a lot of the games and they lose by 10 points, 5 points, there's still losses. And you look at their seeding, they're 12th. I think they're 5.5 games back from Charlotte. So it's not likely that they're going to make the play-in. They've had some internal drama, it seems like, coming out. So I'm disappointed in the Knicks, but let's give the floor to you because you've seen this firsthand, and I just feel bad for you.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, we can't all be Warriors fans like you, Caden. But you know what? It's funny because on the list of seasons as a Knicks fan, I'm 27. This isn't even close to the worst. I've seen way worse than this. But given the expectations coming into this year, the discrepancy based off what we were expecting at the beginning of the season to where we are right now, it is extremely tough and just has been a huge, huge disappointment. Last year, the Knicks came out of nowhere. Huge surprise. We had a late start to the season because the prior season ended or late because of the COVID situation. But for the Knicks to go out last year, I think won 45 games. First year coach for us, Tom Thibodeau. Things were rosy, and we were expecting to take that next step, especially with the offseason additions. We knew we didn't shoot the three all too well last year. At least we didn't shoot it all that much. So we thought bringing in Evan Fournier, even though the Knicks overpaid for him, would be a good signing. Then they went out, they brought Kemba Walker in. So, improved the backcourt a little bit. Kemba Walker, unfortunately, this move was 6-7 years too late. Kemba Walker's a New York native. He'd wanted to be a Knick, or at least there were rumors of him in the Knicks for the last 7 years. And as the Knicks always do, they bring in the guy when he's washed up. Kemba has now been shut down for the year. Before that was playing terrible. He was in Thibodeau's doghouse, barely played for like 2 weeks. Then he came out of it, played really well, then went back down. Obviously, that story's been written. He's done. I don't think he'll ever play in a Knicks uniform again. But, man, it's just been tough. And the biggest thing for me, difference from last year, the Knicks were one of the better defensive teams in the league. They've fought and played defense every single possession of every game. And, Thibodeau really did run some of these guys into the ground. The starters on the Knicks probably play the most minutes out of any of the league's starters. This year, it's just not been the same. The Knicks are ranked 15th on team defense this year. So middle of the pack, giving up 110 points a game. I mean, that's pretty standard for today's NBA, but they don't have that same intensity. And it all starts with Julius Randle, who we know shot out of a cannon last year, had an all-pro season for us, got the contract extension with the Knicks, albeit a team-friendly deal, but we respected him for that. And we expected him, just like the team, to take another step forward, and he's taken 5 steps backwards. And it's not just the play, it's his attitude on the court, the way he's treated teammates, the way he obviously put his thumb down to the fans as if to say, blank you. That's what he said it meant. And you know what? Just the energy, the lethargy from him has really, I think, seeped into the DNA of this team. And they just look like a team that's trying to ride out and finish the season. They don't seem to care. And I got to think Tom Thibodeau's job is on the line at this point because Leon Rose, just like the Lakers brought in Pelinka, Leon Rose, one of the highly respected agents in the sport, was brought in to revamp this team. Obviously, the additions they brought in have not panned out. They brought in Thibodeau. Clearly, it's not working this year. So there's a lot of disconnect, like you said, between the front office and the actual team on the court. And just like the Lakers, the future is very, very uncertain for the New York Knicks right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just unfortunate. I mean, One thing that I can give the Knicks that I can't give the Lakers is their young players. I mean, Quickly and Barrett and Mitchell Robinson are three guys that you definitely want to have stick around.
Mhm.
But as far as Randall, I mean, I know I had said this before we started, but to me, he's an Andrew Wiggins. He's your third best player. He should be your third option. And he's just not the guy to build your team around. And
100%.
it's unfortunate because they believed it. A lot of New York believed that he was the guy. And so far, it's just not working out. But they just got to build through the draft once again. It's unfortunate. Maybe make some trades, but man, I just from this, and they started off the season well. They were winning games, what they were like
Mhm.
4-0 or something. They look like the team that was last year, except for they were
Mhm.
better.
Yeah.
They were shooting better and the defense was still there, but man, it's just been a nosedive ever since
And
then.
like I say though, you and I were watching the first Knicks and Celtics game, the first game of the season for the Knicks at the Garden. We weren't at the Garden, but the game was at the Garden. We were watching on my phone. And even that game, when they allowed Boston to rally in the fourth quarter and tie it on multiple wide open threes, I had a sense that this was not going to be the same team. I didn't think it would be this bad, but you could see just from the very first game of the season that the defensive intensity was not there the way it was last year. And that's been the biggest issue for them. But the next biggest one, you touched on it perfectly, the young players. They have some young talent. Obviously RJ Barrett gets his, he gets his time on the court. But then they have other guys like Emmanuel Quickly, Quentin Grimes, and they're not really getting as much run because Tom Thibodeau refuses to play the young guys. He's just continuously playing these older veterans. He pushes them hard 40, 45, 50 minutes. If it goes to overtime, I mean, he doesn't care. They're going to play as much of a game as possible, and it's been tough to have to watch. We brought in Cam Reddish on the trade. What happens? He doesn't play the first 4 games. Then he starts to get comfortable in the Knicks system, starts performing. Then he gets hurt. Now he's out for the season. So honestly, moving forward, Mitchell Robinson's a free agent. That's tough. We're going to have to bring him back. There's going to be a lot of teams already rumored to be interested in him. It's just the Knicks have had such terrible luck in the draft as it's been with the lottery, constantly being that one pick behind the big guy. We got RJ Barrett, but who was picked before him? John Morant. 2008, we picked Danilo Gallinari. The pick before him was Steph Curry. So I don't even know. For me as a Knicks fan at this point, no expectations are the best expectations for this team.
Yeah, and I think I'm glad you brought that up about the Knicks Celtics game because like watching that game, you just see them collapse and they collapsed last Friday against Memphis. They were losing. They come back. They're up like over 10 points in the fourth quarter, and then Memphis brings it back. And then this last game, I think it was on Sunday, the Nets game. I mean, that was just terrible. I mean, they had the young guys that were bringing them back. Barrett knocked down some shots. Jericho Sims had one of the best blocks in that game on James Johnson. I mean, that was a terrific block. And then they just turned the ball over. They allow Brooklyn to score. I mean, Kevin Durant is getting double teamed the whole game, and he's still putting up big numbers. And then Evan Fournier turns the ball over in the corner, which is their last possession. I mean, that's just in a nutshell what it's like to be a Knicks fan, I bet. I mean, that was so tough.
Bing bong. We're
That
trash.
was just terrible.
We're
But
trash.
I don't know what they're gonna do. I mean, luckily they have some young guys, like you said, that they can lean on and hopefully build around. But whew, it is not looking good this year.
Long road ahead still.
Yes,
As it's been a 20-year road. It's looking like it's going to be 25 years at this point before we're finally good again.
Thank you for watching this episode of the East Coast West Coast podcast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and follow our social medias down below.